What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the GITN podcast, where we cover the true crime, the paranormal, and anything else we want to discuss. Sometimes current affairs, sometimes conspiracies, sometimes our problems at work. We discuss that too, because we're going to have one of those tonight. Tonight, we're doing Jack the Ripper and his victims, the whole story. Like I was saying earlier, before we actually started when we were early.
We were early.
While we were waiting for people to show up before we technically started. This could have been a 3 to 4 parter. There's so much information. We dumbed it down. We summarized, but we're going to hit the high spots. We're going to talk about the victims, a little bit of their background, some of their issues. We're going to talk about the crime scenes. We're going to talk about the investigation or lack thereof. We're going to talk conspiracies. There's conspiracies with old Jackie Boy and his identity. So that is what we're going to discuss tonight. Travis is going to probably not participate much because he is going to be on the phone dealing with a work crisis. So the jokes may be not as plentiful.
I'm going to try.
Anything you want to talk about before we get started?
Did you figure out that vampire movie that you were trying to name?
I was trying to entertain the folks while you weren't here, and
What did we talk about?
We talked about this is stupid. This podcast sucks. No, I was just telling them to like and subscribe. We're much better than this normally. What was that vampire? We were talking vampire movies before we actually hit the intro.
As we all know, Jack the Ripper was a vampire.
Maybe. Or he was a Mason. We don't know.
Probably. He was a bad guy.
But was he?
Oh, was he a hero? Was he a caped crusader?
Maybe. Everybody wore a cape back then.
I'm not the hero that London needs. I'm the hero that London deserves.
Yeah, that is... I still say he's not the best Batman.
Which one?
Christian Bale.
No, but I think they might have been some of the best Batman movies.
I will say you are correct.
Yeah.
Movies-wise, they were the best. I don't think he was the best Batman.
Now Robert Pattinson's Batman.
For those,
has one of those movies come out yet?
Yeah, the one's come out. Yeah, I've seen it. It's actually not bad, but it's not great. It's got Zoe Kravitz in it.
Oh.
It came out, 2 years ago?
The American Woman?
I guess.
Even though her dad's a celebrity, so I'd assume just for, running away's sake, she has dual citizenship.
Where's he from?
I don't know.
He's from...
But he's a celebrity, so, you never know when he's going to be announced as a PDF file or a diddler of some sort or a trafficker.
That is true. You never know. No, but this is an interesting case, and I wanted to cover it. I've been looking at this for a couple weeks, and I wasn't going to do it so soon. But this weekend I was bored. I said, you know what? Let's just dive deep. Something I don't do ever.
Fair enough.
Because actually I was working on another episode last week for my next one. And I said, you know what? Let me look into this Jack the Ripper case a little bit more heavily. And I said, and it just flowed. So that is what we're going to talk about tonight. I guess we go ahead and get started. I don't think there's anything pressing we need to discuss right now.
I don't know what's going on in current events.
Neither do I.
There's an elephant seal somewhere. It was on Fox News today. I don't know. They were like, that little rascal. I'm like, oh, that's important? That's what we're talking about?
I will say this when it deals with nature. On my reels and TikTok and all these... I'm seeing a lot. I think they're all in cahoots.
What, the aminals?
Or no, these social media or platforms.
Why?
Because my algorithm is the same on all of them. It went from girls dancing half naked to dumbass men having bears and wolves as pets.
I guess that really makes the man or a bear issue hard to answer.
I mean,
they live under the same roof.
Well, not pets, but interacting with them in a playful way, like they're buddies. I'm sorry, a bear is not your buddy.
I might do it with a bear cub, like a captive one, I'd probably like, oh, you boy, baby.
I will say this: I have been going down a rabbit hole on fucking YouTube
About
arm wrestling.
God.
It's fucking amazing. And I went down it a couple years, or probably 9 years ago, 10 years ago. It was cool. And it was actually ESPN had a show and stuff. It was pretty cool. But what really got me, Brian Shaw's doing it.
Yeah, he's been doing it.
Well, I know, but I think that proves that it's not about the strength. It's about technique. Because if there's very few people that have ever walked the face of the earth as strong as him.
Why did he get beat?
No, he's still, I mean, he didn't get beat, but he's not, you'd think he would run through people.
Yeah.
In his accomplishments in strongman. It goes much deeper than that.
Oh, no, I think, what did I see? Martins Licis is going to arm wrestle Eddie Hall, I think.
Well, I did see him beat Eddie Hall.
I think that's the next one, which is weird because he's preparing for Worlds in Arnold. You wouldn't think that would be on the radar right now.
Yeah, because apparently it's completely different muscles. Like biceps don't really fucking matter. It's more tricep, forearm, and shoulder. It's all the whole thing the whole group of muscles has to be strong. But I mean, it's majority technique. Because, like I said, if you would think somebody as strong as Brian Shaw, I mean, 6'8", close to 500 pounds. Of course, he dropped like 100 pounds. Mm-hmm. He's actually looking fucking good.
Yeah.
But
I'd fuck him.
No, he'd fuck you.
No, he looks like a big softie. He does seem like a big old soft teddy bear outside of the gym and shit.
Yeah, but now
he's so quiet. He's so giant, but he's like,
like I was watching. What was it?
He's like Big Hero 6.
I was watching one. Devin Larratt. Hit one of his sons, who's not overly fucking impressive. To look at, not super big. Not.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
6'2", beat that guy from Korea. That looked like I mean, he was 5'5" by 5'5" and muscle. Muscle from his earlobes down. And he walked through him like it was nothing.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
But, I mean, that just goes to prove it's all technique.
It's the new martial art.
But, you know, what's cool about everybody is that every male on the planet has done it.
Yeah, pretty much.
If you haven't done it, you probably are into ballet.
It's funny. It's like not to be shitty, but like, I respect it, but it's kind of like the dumbest test of strength amongst just normal dudes.
Well, it's a good way to
start a fight in a bar
without, I mean, you can get injured, but you're not going to get CTE from it.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think like when you take just normal dudes doing it, I'm like, you're not really proving a whole lot about like who's a bigger, badder dude because neither of you know what the fuck you're doing.
And it goes more than just Stallone's moving your fingers over the thumb.
It's all about thumb control.
All about hand control.
It's all about your axis.
Yeah. All right. That's just been my fucking. I've been diving down that rabbit hole. I can't get enough of it.
I don't know. Mine's been randomly inundated with Pokemon cards because there's new Pokemon cards coming out this week, which I won't be able to find because. It's like fucking Furbies and Tickle Me Elmos out there for Pokemon. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Other than that, the normal stuff, stand-up shit, podcast shit. Take a look at the animals that the ancient Polynesians saw. Stuff like that.
I do want to dedive into what's under the pyramids. I've heard a little bit about it, but I've not really listened.
It's an energy chamber.
Maybe we'll do an episode on that too.
And then they also formed, they created chemical. It was a chemical laboratory.
And I tried to, what's his name? Rogan had on the Egyptian who basically, with Graham Hancock, got him banned from Egypt. Asawi or whatever. The head of antiquities.
Yeah.
The douchebag and head that keeps it all locked.
Zahi Hawass.
Yes. I tried to listen to it, but listening to the man talk made me want to pull my eyeballs out.
Because of his accent or because of his...
Just his tone, his condescending attitude.
I know, he really does have like an air about him, an aura.
Yeah, like he is what I hate about academia.
He's what I hate about Middle Eastern people.
Yeah. No, it's just the lack of...
Even though Egypt is in Africa.
The lack of open-mindedness, thinking there might be a shot that there's more to the story than what we know.
Yeah, everybody in science is just Danny DeVito from Matilda. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm big, you're little. I'm smart, you're dumb. That's how science is.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. All right, let's get into Jack the Ripper. Victorian London's East End in 1888 was marked with poverty, overcrowding, and fear. A legend was born at this time, and it went by the moniker of Jack the Ripper, which, did you know, fun fact, we'll kind of talk a little bit about this and how it came about. Jack the Ripper, there are those that believe that he gave himself that name.
Will you leave a note?
There was several notes sent. He was the Zodiac killer before the Zodiac.
Yeah, but that could have been anybody, well, especially at that time and that place.
That's the debate about it, but we'll cover it. There was one particular letter that's very interesting. A lot of modern historians or ripperologists, as they like to call themselves.
It's just what we call a pothead.
Yeah. They doubt it, but I'll cover it a little bit later in the podcast that there is some interest. There was things said in that.
Was it poorly worded?
No, it wasn't.
I'm Jack.
I'm not going to read it.
I done it.
But he coined...
I'll do it again.
He coined his own name, Jack the Ripper. So, if it's true, which it very well could be. Now...
Kind of on the nose.
The Whitechapel murders. Between 1888 and between April of 1888 and February of 1891, 11 actual murders occurred in Whitechapel. Now,
I feel like that's a low ball.
No, there's really there's five. Five of these are known as the... I practice this.
Stroke.
I practice this forever.
Canonical, I
know. Canonical Five are commonly attributed to Jack the Ripper.
I just feel like that's in that area in that time. I feel like 11 is not that many.
Yeah. Now I think one was before. I believe the first actual murder that is attributed to Jack the Ripper was August 31st of 1888. I believe one of those 11 was prior to that, and then the rest were after the last of the five.
So are we saying that there was 11 that are attributed to him?
No, 5 are...
So 11 across the board.
That some people believe it was him, but the MOs just don't match up. These 5 are very common in MOs to where it was probably the same guy. Those other 6, it's possible, close, but probably not. But like I said earlier, this was an extremely overcrowded area, very poor, very impoverished. A lot was going on, so could have just been drunken fighting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The first victim was Mary Ann Nichols, often referred to as Polly, on August 31st, 1888. She was born on August 26, 1845, in London. She was separated from her husband, William Nichols. They had 5 children together, so they like to hit it. She struggled with alcoholism and poverty, which is a common theme amongst all these victims. She worked occasionally as a domestic servant and a prostitute, which was also will be common in these victims. The discovery of her body was approximately 3:40 a.m. Location was Bucks Row near Deward Street. It was this. She was discovered by a Carmen Charles Cross. I guess a Carmen. I don't know what a Carmen is. Is that a guy that drives a horse and buggy? Fuck, I don't know.
Carman, probably.
I don't know. The condition of the body when it was found: clothes were pulled up, no sign of a struggle, throat slashed twice from left to right, abdomen slashed open with precision. I'm assuming when they say precision with a scalpel. But the coroner or whatever they used at the time estimated the time of death was 30 minutes before the discovery of the body. That doesn't leave a lot of time, and this will also be a common theme throughout this. That's why I said, when I said he was either a fantastic serial killer, maybe the best, most skilled serial killer of all time, or the luckiest.
Which, probably not.
I mean, 30 minutes after, of course, how accurate is this time of death back in 1888?
Right.
I mean, a lot of this.
When do you think she died? Sometime between Tuesday and Saturday.
Okay, but
There's no maggots, Governor.
now Annie Chapman was the second victim.
She sounds like a bitch.
She was murdered September 8th of 1888. She was born 1840 in September of 1840 in Paddington. I'm assuming that's in the UK.
The home of the bear.
She was married to John Chapman. They had 3 children together. She struggled with health issues, alcoholism, and the loss of her child.
So she was just a normal 1800s London person.
Right. Alcoholism is big.
I've got
Apparently,
tuberculosis. I've lost 3 kids, and I drank too much. London.
right.
She could just say, "I'm from London" in the 1800s, and people go, "Oh, you poor thing."
Right. She lived a very poor life, occasionally working as a prostitute. The discovery of her body was the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street, discovered by John Davis, a tenant. Let's see. Her body was found laying on its back, skirt pulled up, hands across her chest.
Skirts, it says, because it's the 1800s and you wore 7 layers at all times. I never understood that.
What is a skirt? What is it called? A petticoat? Or?
They dress like fucking homeless people. They're like, well, I don't want to carry it, so I wear it.
It's the 1800s. I never know when I'll be home, so I just wear 7 different changes of clothing at one time.
Now, her throat was slashed twice as well, abdomen split open, intestines placed on her shoulder. He's escalating. Old Jack is he's changing it up a little bit. Her uterus and parts of her bladder and vagina were removed. So things are getting a little bit more dicier. You know, he's elevating his game, if you want to like to say. The third victim was Elizabeth Stride. Her nickname was Long Liz. I don't know why.
Because of her name? Was she tall as shit? Did Liz have a long stride?
Maybe.
Maybe she had like a hangy labia.
That's roast beef going on. I don't fucking know.
Like she clapped when she walked.
She was born September 30th.
Her vagina looked like an upside down wacky arms inflatable tube man.
She was murdered September 30th, 1888. She was born November 27th, 1843 in Sweden.
Sweden. Yeah.
She was an immigrant to London, worked as a domestic servant and prostitute.
Oh, Elizabeth Gustafsdotter. So her father or grandfather was named Gustav.
She was married and later separated, and she lived in a workhouse, or the workhouses.
So she was a Swedish
immigrant.
Oh, so she probably was tall as fuck.
Probably. They're tall and blonde, baby.
Like the aliens.
Yeah. Her body was discovered at 1 a.m. In Dutfield's yard, off Burner Street. It was discovered by a man by the name of Louis Diemschutz. Obviously, the Swedes and the Germans hung out together.
You put them all in the same place.
Now, she was seen earlier with a man carrying a parcel. Body was lying on its side when it was found, throat deeply slashed, no mutilations. The common thought is that Jack was interrupted and didn't have time to finish his work.
Like Angelina Jolie and Winona Ryder?
Yes.
From Girl Interrupted?
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Oh, that's pretty good.
And another aspect of this that lets the experts, gives them the reason to think this, is because the next murder of Catherine Idalis, or Idalis, whatever, was the same night, September 30th, 1888. Let's see when. But it was approximately, I think, her body was discovered half hour. I thought I had it in my notes after Long Liz was discovered.
Long Liz.
So apparently,
I feel like there's no way that was a respectful nickname.
No.
Here comes Long Liz. She's got the flappiest puss this side of the Thames.
I mean, if you think about that, he was in the midst of killing Long Liz, hacking her up, got interrupted or got spooked. Obviously, he didn't get his rocks off, so he had to go find somebody immediately and do it again. And her body was found at 1 o'clock. What was it? Let's see here. And when did it hurt? I don't have a time, but I'm pretty sure it was half an hour. Elizabeth's body was found half an hour after Long Liz. So that is some serious go fast. He was taking some Red Bull.
He's double Lizzed up.
Yeah. Yeah. Her Long Liz was discovered at 1 o'clock, and let's see, Catherine was last seen alive. She was last seen alive at 1. So 40 in her body. Last seen alive at 1:35 a.m. And they found her body.
Whoever she was with killed her.
They found her body at 1:45. So 15 minutes since she was last seen, and 45 minutes from the time of the last murder was found, this woman was killed. So that is a tight fucking window.
Unlike Long Liz.
Or probably most of these women. Anyway, let's get back. Let's talk about Catherine. She was born in April 14th of 1842. She lived with John Kelly. She was known to be intelligent, articulate, but struggled with poverty and alcoholism, as in the case of all these women. Leading up to her death, she was arrested for drunkenness at 8:30 p.m. on September 20 on the 29th, and she was released from the jail at 1 o'clock in the morning.
See, if you would have just stayed in jail, your dumbass would still be alive.
She was last seen at 1:35, like I said, talking to a man, and then her body was discovered at 1:45 by a constable, Edward Watkins.
It was Edward Watkins.
Maybe.
Isn't that one of the things that it was the cops?
We'll kind of dive into that, and there's the reason for that. The condition of her body: throat cut, face manipulated. Mutilated.
Her face was manipulated as if to be a puppet.
Eyelids and V cuts were found on her face. Her abdomen was open, intestines exposed.
It was a dude in a Guy Fawkes mask. The V cuts.
Ooh,
V for Vendetta.
Maybe.
Remember the whatever the fuck of September or November or whatever the fuck that day that was.
Her uterus and left kidney were removed.
That kind of lends itself potentially to like body snatchers.
That's true. I mean, I think
very common practice at the time.
Whoever's doing the cattle mutilations could take a fucking page out of Jack the Ripper's fucking handbook. Uh-oh. I hear it. You're being something.
Yeah, just a random email that I don't give a shit about.
But I think this is the important, just the tight window of these two murders. When she was seen, Jack the Ripper she was last seen at 1:35, which this man she was talking to, odds are that was Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
When she was seen at 1:35, and her body is found by the constable Watkins at 1:45.
Which also, how the fuck far away was the constable that he didn't hear anything? You would imagine there would be a scream.
Yeah, now in most of these, I think most of these first four happened in like alleyways. They were exposed.
As is tradition.
I believe the last one, let me check, is different. The fifth and final one we're going to talk about of the Canonical Five is Mary Jane Kelly. And she was murdered on November 9th of 1888. So, let's see when. When was September?
So less than a year
No.
total.
No, 1888.
That's what I'm saying. Total for all of them.
Oh, yeah, just 3 months for these 5. 2 months. Well, everything happened in September, the first 4. Well, end of
They were quick, fast, and in a hurry.
end of August, last day of August, September. And then he took, obviously, Jack, that last kill, those last 2, took a lot out of him because he was busy in a quick amount of time. So he had to take a month off and did not murder again, officially, they say, until November 9th of 1888. Mary Kelly, she was born in 1863. Her birth whereabouts is a little sketchy. Nobody really knows. She was known as Fair Emma or Marie Jeanette Kelly. She was
Fair Emma.
What?
Fair. Who the fuck
No,
did
we
that
got
come
Long Liz and Fair Emma. You know, these are
The Long
these are
Liz,
their stripper
I get.
names.
Long Liz, I get. Her last name was Stride.
These are their stripper names. That went for past the stripper names back in
Yeah,
1888.
probably.
Next on the stage is Long Liz. She's only got tuberculosis and scabies. She ain't got the third one.
She was known to be very attractive, 5'7", so probably 5'7" back in 1888 for a woman was. She was up.
5'7"
She
is
should
pretty
have been
tall
called-
today for a woman.
Well, not really. Yes, I guess it could be. But she was reported to have blonde or red hair. Or how about strawberry blonde?
I don't think that was a thing back then. Nobody could afford strawberries in these days. Strawberries were a commodity of the rich.
Yes. She lived with a man by the name of Joseph Bennett, and he was known to sing in pubs.
Barnett.
What I say?
Or did you say
Barnett.
Bennett? Or
Oh,
is it
Barnett.
supposed to be Bennett?
Barnett.
I've
My
done.
bad. But he was a karaoke.
Karaoke?
Karaoke man.
He was
if they had that back then.
He was a busker.
But he was a struggling musician, liked to sing in bars. So
He did it.
He was a loser. The events leading to her death. She was seen entering.
Back then, for sure.
Yeah.
Now you make solid living doing shit like that. Back then, I feel like they're just like,
Here's 2 pence and an ale.
This
Fuck off.
This is the murder that really sets off the Jack the Ripper,
yeah, why this one?
because I'm gonna get to it, the gruesomeness of this.
Oh, I thought it was going to be because she was like from like
No,
a better background or something like that, which would have made sense.
right. She was seen entering Miller's Court on the day of the night of the murder. She was seen entering Miller's Court at 11:45 with a man.
Of course.
The man was described
Slut.
as stout, blotchy faced, with a whatever kind of mustache.
Carroty mustache?
What does that mean? Is that one of them twirly thingies?
No, it can't be.
I don't know.
It's just like a thick,
had a
like
mustache.
a H.H. Holmes style mustache.
Probably. Maybe it was a Hitler mustache. I don't fucking know.
Nah, I don't think that carroty would be a proper way to describe that.
And you never trust a man with a mustache.
Oh, the mustaches are coming back in a big way.
I hate Maverick for that movie for that reason. The mustache.
Some of I respect some of them.
The mustache should go by the way of 70s porn. I'm sorry. If you're not in a 70s porn, you should not have a mustache. Put some hair on the chin too.
On the chinny chin chin.
Yeah. Unless you're going to go full Hulk Hogan with the Fu Manchu. That's
Look
acceptable.
up what a carroty mustache
Go ahead,
is.
look that up. Let's see. Her body was discovered at 10:45. So what was that? She was seen at what? Oh, 10:45 a.m. My bad. The location was a single room flat behind 26 Dorset Street, and she was discovered by Thomas Bauer, a rent collector. She hadn't paid her rent in a fucking while, so the owner of the fucking place said, "You know what? Go get my money."
I think we're dealing with like a Wyatt Earp style mustache.
Okay. This sex worker better have my money. So he sent old Thomas out to collect. Now,
Who the fuck paid their rent on time back then?
I don't know. Now, apparently
They didn't even know what day it was.
the door was locked and he couldn't get in naturally. So he went to a window, moved the curtain, and saw the body. Broke the window to get in, which
That's a dumb idea.
bad mistake number one.
You call the Bobby.
Yes. Now, what made this?
You run through the cobblestone streets going, "Constable, murder, murder." You run past the kid with the newspapers. You go, "Boy, tell everyone there's been a murder." And he goes, "Hey, hey, hey, hey." You know, like all the other movies. Every movie's historically accurate about London at this time.
Now, Mary's death is the most heinous of all the crimes. I mean, she was mutilated beyond all recognition, basically. Her throat was slashed to the spine. Basically, her head was barely connected. Face was destroyed. Organs removed and placed around the room. And the coroner basically said, or whatever the doctor they used as a coroner, most of this happened post-mortem, like taking out, you would think.
That's yeah.
The room locked from the inside, and her key was never found. The time of death was estimated at approximately 4 o'clock in the morning.
I'm guessing this isn't one of those scenarios like today where you could just lock the door and close it.
I don't think so. No, I don't think it was that. They were that
skeleton
fancy.
Key days.
They weren't that fancy. They didn't have any,
Losers.
thumbprint deadbolts.
Well, no, like how you can like lock a door before you close a room now.
Yeah, kind of like
I'm assuming you probably couldn't do that back then.
Probably not.
Get it together. Get your security up.
But this, I believe, was the first and only one that took place in a enclosed location. So Jack took his time with this one. He savored this one. He enjoyed this one, probably. And that is why he did such a horrific,
Thorough job. So
horrifying job.
This is why he did so well.
And what was it? I didn't write this down. I do have some other notes that
This never would have happened if they had ADT.
Now, I don't remember. I'm sure. I wonder. I haven't read this. There had to have been some assault.
Some attempted murders?
No, some while he did this, like on her. The other ones, I don't think so. But I wonder if was any sexual crimes committed.
Well, I mean, if you're cutting out organs, you might never know.
But this is the only one where I think time-wise, the other two, he's got 15 minutes. Now I could pull that off because I'm on. I got 2 minutes. You get me for 2 minutes, the best 2 minutes of your life. I could probably pull it off.
Said no one.
But this one, he took his time. Like I said, she was last seen when? 10:45? 10:45. So he had several hours probably with her. So I wonder if there's any grape juice going on.
Oh, no, you'd think if you're smart, it'd be an in and out situation.
What, do you want a burger?
No, like, get done, get gone.
And here's the thing. Maybe he was so frustrated by the other two murders where he had to rush them. This is why he took his time. Maybe he seduced her to get her back to the room. Let's be honest. He probably was posing as a John.
A customer.
Yes. And that bought him some time.
He had a couple pence burning a hole in his pocket.
But I really didn't read anything about any sexual stuff going on here. The other one's too much time, or there wasn't enough time. And it was out in the open. And from what I understood, most of these sex workers, they didn't take them back to the rooms. They would just do it right there in the alleyway up against the wall, which I respect.
Well, you also, due to shit like this, probably don't want people to know where you spend much time.
Well, but how? Yes, it was overcrowded. It was London, but London wasn't as big as it is now. It's very you think everybody knows your name. It's like, I'm sure there's a Cheers bar somewhere around. But
around that time, you know where I can find her? Nope. Are you lying to me? No, I have no fucking idea.
There was no way they were ever going to catch Jack the Ripper. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, because he was he was a British diplomat.
Maybe we'll get to that. But just the knowledge, there's no DNA. The science behind crime fighting now, you'd have to be a moron to get caught back in 1888, or just incredibly unlucky. Now you got to be a genius.
You had a better chance of getting caught if you had nothing to do with it back then.
Right. But there was limitations of the era, like a lack of forensic science, contamination, and disturbed crime scenes. All these, they didn't. I don't know if they had yellow tape back then.
Well, they probably also just didn't have very good training.
Right.
You get a bunch of fucking half-wit cops walking around, and they step in somebody's uterus, and they're like, fuck, and they like kick it across the room.
No,
like, make sure you pick that up for evidence.
No bloody footprints. That was Bob.
Yeah.
But
I doubt they had those little foot baggies.
There was some contamination because, moving of the bodies, the photographic documentation was not adequate back then.
Well, yeah, because they didn't have time to sit there for 4 hours while it fucking developed. Well, she did.
I think Mary Kelly's death is the only one where photos, or at least survived, that, and you can't even tell who it. You could barely tell it was a female. But that, I think that was the only one they really talk about. The other ones, not so much. There were other issues with the investigation. Excuse me. There were actually 2 police forces involved in the investigation because it happened
where it all goes to shit
across lines. Basically, Whitechapel was
a great band.
Whitechapel was basically the Metro Police, and the City of London Police was, which one happened in? Only one murder happened in
the first one.
No,
in Whitechapel.
No, all the other ones were only one. All of them happened in Catherine's death on September 30th. One of the fast ones, Stride, Long Liz, was in Whitechapel, but Catherine's death 15 minutes later was in the London police were involved in that one. It was across county, or not, police lines, basically. So that makes it, I don't know, I'm not familiar with that area, never been.
Right.
Must have been.
Everything seems, I feel like everything was smaller back then.
Must have been right on the line. But
to the line, gentlemen.
Naturally, whenever you got 2 different police forces involved,
it all goes to shit.
Not a lot of sharing, poor communication, not a lot of sharing of information.
Dick swinging going between them. And
they didn't quite talk to each other, and the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing. And everybody, you get a bunch.
So it was no different than fucking if you have more than one police force working something today.
Correct. Also, what made it difficult was the public interference. Over 300 letters claiming to be from the killer were sent to the police station.
And we think fucking clout chasing is a new thing.
Yeah, no. One of them was called the Dear Boss letter, introduced the name of Jack the Ripper. It was dated September 27th of 1888. It was linked to the mutilation of Catherine, the first one of September 30th. And here's why. Let's see here. I know I wrote it down. Anyway, in that letter, whoever wrote the letter, we're going to say Jack, just for, he basically said he was going to cut off an ear. And in Catherine's murder, which was 3 days later, what happened? One of her ears were cut off. One of her ears were cut off. So it predicted it. If it was not if it was not Jack the Ripper. Now, a lot of modern day historians still think this is a hoax.
Well, yeah, I mean, just off rip. Just because it's dated 3 days before doesn't mean that
it was a hell of a guess. Before. It was very lucky if it wasn't.
Right.
To predict how the body was going to be mutilated, especially when that wasn't done in any of the other ones.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, this shit could have been written in fucking November. You know what I mean?
It was... No, they got it before.
Oh, so like they received it before. It was written the 27th. It wasn't just dated before.
They received it before the murders.
Okay, got it. I was confuzzled. I was gonna say, because if it's just dated that, who gives a fuck?
Many modern day people, and even people back then, thought it was actually a hoax, possibly by a journalist, Frederick Best, just to drum up.
He sounds like a twat.
Just to drum up, some.
I bet you he told
Paper
everybody
trails.
to call him Friedrich.
It's actually Friedrich. It's a family name.
Right, and like
I
any,
wear an ascot all the time.
and naturally, citizens were, the police force was inundated with false leads,
That's
which
normal.
is going to bog down any police station. There was also vigilante groups formed, which kind of that time frame, it makes sense.
Burn the witch. A lot of that shit going on.
And one of them was called the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee. At least they had a cool name. Very professional like. It was a committee. It wasn't a hate group. It was a committee.
What? Okay.
What's those guys that wear the red berets in New York?
Gays.
No, there's some group like they walk the streets and like a neighborhood watch type thing.
The Warriors.
No, I forget.
Come out and play.
I forget what their name is. Oh, they have actually.
I
Have
don't
a
fucking
name.
know. It's probably stupid.
Probably.
They probably don't do jack shit. They just walk around and they're like,
Anthony, call the police. This man's radio's turned up too high.
Now, there was institutional bias, of course. Victims were marginalized, impoverished women, and sex workers.
just like he was the fucking 1800s European Bill Picton.
Right. So, how much effort did the police force and the officials put into it, essentially? These were marginal people. Nobody... Who was it? Dice Man.
Yeah.
Kuczynski. Who did he fucking kill? Homeless people.
Even though most of those were a lie.
He said he practiced on homeless people because nobody would miss them.
Well, and there's also the fact that
Nobody gave a fuck about these
if anything's
prostitutes.
taught us anything for the most part, there was just one dude that worked for some police force back then that actually gave a fuck about trying to figure this thing out. Traditionally, everybody else was just like, oh, I'm just here to make my paycheck, governor.
Right. But, nobody cared probably that it was these women. Nobody gave a rat's ass about these women. So how hard did they go after or look into it? I don't think that. I think, in my personal opinion, I would think the public fear would be enough motivation. Possibly.
Yeah, but that's how you get vigilante groups like that one. That's not how you get actual police interference. Or, well, interference might not be the right word, but police work.
Well, naturally, the media, just like they do now, the media has always been full of shit. Would also cause a lot of problems. Drum up probably a lot of part of the reason why there was probably a vigilante committee. Somebody's having a party out there. So the media didn't help issues. Now let's get into some suspects and some conspiracy theories. Aaron Kaminsky was a Polish Jewish immigrant and was a hairdresser. Now the
I believe that would just be a barber back then, wouldn't it?
No, I think he was actually called a hairdresser.
Oh, so he's gay.
Apparently. Now, it is, I didn't mention it, but we all know, anybody's even somewhat familiar with this case, they believe Jack the Ripper had some kind of medical knowledge, possibly a doctor.
Which people who cut hair did have back in the day.
Exactly. There were some barbers, hairdressers, whatever, would perform surgeries.
Yeah. Bloodletting.
Yes.
Tooth removals.
Apparently, that is part of the white or red and yellow or white, red, and blue little candy cane thing. Apparently, that had something to do with it.
The Crest toothpaste outside.
What colors were on that dictated what they did. That's how you knew what they did.
No thanks. It's gonna be a no to all of that, except maybe the haircut.
He was Aaron was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia.
Good. That's definitely the guy you want giving you a straight razor.
People the police talked to said he had an immense hatred of women.
Oh, so he was an incel.
Right. Now, you probably heard of here recently where the DNA test that was performed on the scarf.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was from, did I write it down? I think it was from Catherine's murder. Anyway, the Shaw was linked to, Catherine's murder and claimed to be a match to descendants of Mr. Aaron's, Kaminsky's, or whatever. But the Shaw was never officially entered in as official evidence. So the chain of custody on this is out the window. This would never hold up in court, even in today's standards, especially even back then. I was
going to say, back then it's a toss-up what holds up in court.
Are we 100% sure that was her scarf? Now, it is interesting that this shawl or whatever, I don't know what the difference between a shawl or a scarf is, did match.
I think a shawl is more like an over-the-shoulder joint.
A descendant to Kaminsky's or Aaron's, whatever his name is.
That fucking guy.
Now, most of the people who talk, when they talk about suspects, always use the phrase mental illness. Like Aaron, paranoid schizophrenia. And the next one, I mentioned two here. Official, Chaim Hyams. What kind of fucking name is that? That's just lazy parenting. He was a cigar maker with epilepsy.
Oh.
Known to carry a knife, he was committed to an asylum in 1889. Fit physical descriptions and had anatomical knowledge from his time. I guess he did do some butchery. He was a butcher, so he had some knife abilities. And he did fit, like I said, fit the description. And he's another one that had some mental issues, committed to an asylum. They also thought that probably Jack the Ripper, maybe if he didn't have medical knowledge, he at least had anatomical knowledge of how bodies work, how they can be cut up, like a butcher of some sort.
What if it was just very elementary? He's just like in the park somewhere chopping up some dead lady, and he's like, the neck bone's connected to the clavicle, the clavicle's connected to the shoulder.
And here's the thing: these murders, from when I went through the murders, those 5 murders, my personal opinion, we all know serial killers have some kind of mental.
They're psychopaths,
but that doesn't mean they're not functioning. Like
no,
this man.
Most of the most well-known serial killers. Well, I don't want to say most of, but a lot of the most well-known serial killers are probably smarter than any of us.
Right. Like Chaim.
Look at what's his name? Big Ed. Ed chopped his mom's head off and mouth fucked it.
8 foot tall. Kemper.
Yes. Genius. He was smart as fuck. He literally helped the FBI write
the manual for the behavioral
analysis of a serial killer.
Right. Genius.
Yeah, that's not just on a TV show. That's not just on Criminal Minds or whatever. He actually fucking did that. He was smart as shit. It was a well-known fact.
But Chaim here had epilepsy.
Every time I see his name, all I hear is yum, yum, yum.
So, I would think, yes, this man, Jack.
Just because you're crazy doesn't mean you're not capable.
Jack the Ripper was a psychopath. He lacked empathy. What's that? He probably didn't have empathy, but he was obviously smart and skilled. Either that, he had the power to become invisible, to get away, for these bodies to be found half hour.
He was a vampire.
Do a murder 15 minutes apart from the time, or one body was found, the next body was found 15 minutes later.
He's a vampire. He did it like Laszlo from. Do you ever watch What We Do in the Shadows?
No.
Oh yeah,
I watched like one episode.
Every time when he wants to fly away and get away, and he goes, "Bat!" and turns into a bat and flies away. That's what fucking Jack the Ripper did.
I mean,
and also epilepsy's not like. epilepsy is not going to cause you to be fucking crazy.
No, it's but
you would think with like all the stimulus going on, the epilepsy, like they would have found him because he would have been like, and like
would have had a seizure. You know,
you're like, oh, there goes your left leg, and he's just fucking. They find him. They're like, well, this one was easy. So call the dogs off.
I don't think just because somebody was a little crazy and hated women doesn't make them fucking Jack the Ripper. They had to have some skills. And
I like that note, by the way. What? Fit physical description and had anatomical knowledge from meat work.
He worked at meat. I didn't say what kind of meat.
He's a meat worker. He worked that meat day and night.
But I would, like I said, I think the Jack the Ripper was, yes, he was crazy. He was a psychopath, but he was skilled. He was very possibly could have been a doctor. Highly educated, probably, and obviously fit to commit these murders. You've been in a fight. I've been in a fight. The adrenaline dump.
Can you imagine if he was a fat fuck?
The adrenaline dump after a fight, dump after a fight is exhausting.
Yeah,
you know, 30 seconds worth of a fight feels like you ran a marathon.
I was talking to a young, like 17 or 18-year-old kid about that a couple weeks ago. He was like, I've never actually been in a fight. I was like, just continue with that lifestyle. It's fucking stupid. I was like, you're gonna have all these grandiose thoughts, and then 26 seconds into fighting, you're gonna be like, fuck.
This was not a good idea.
You'd be like, all the movies were wrong.
I've never murdered anybody. I would think the act itself, the adrenaline it would take, I think there would be an adrenaline dump and you would get very tired very quickly.
Well, not to mention very often the sexual gratification that comes along with it for a lot of serial killers.
With no actual sexual contact, right. They get off on it. But
I just like the idea of it being a fat, like out of shape, dirty, like longshoreman back in the day. Like you're just hearing whistles and people be like, "Oi, alert the police! We found a body!" And you just have some fat fuck running through the woods, like. And he's like back in his fucking house, like, "You did a good job."
Yeah, but I definitely think just especially that night of two murders were 15 minutes apart. You couldn't be a fat fuck. You had to be somewhat in shape.
You would almost arguably have to be more than one person.
Or these were, Jack the Ripper is kind of like a catch-all term. There's multiple, because not even all these MOs are about the same. I mean, they're not identical. It seemed like Jack the Ripper was up in his game a little bit. Like the last one, Mary Kelly's death, that was overkill.
Literally.
So it very well could be this is just a few different killers that they said, okay, same person. Because they didn't, It'd
be even worse if he had time for all of them. Because it's way creepier to think of it like a Hannibal Lecter scenario where he like takes his time and he's like, "Yes, I like the way your skin flays off of your rib cage, Jonathan." I
mean, I would be down with that to think like, especially the two that happened on September 30th. Could have been two different murders, and they were similar. And I'm sure by this time, the first one was in August. Whitechapel's not that big, so word was out. So it could have been, I would think one of them could have been Jack the Ripper, the other one could have been a copycat. That would make more sense than this motherfucker killed a hooker.
Literally.
Got interrupted because it wasn't, Catherine, I believe, is the one that got interrupted because her throat was slit, wasn't disemboweled and they assumed he was interrupted. Then he went to the next one, or Long Liz was the first one, then I forget, fuck the name, I'm not going back. The next one, 15 minutes later, was disemboweled, was more of the MO. So could the first one been somebody else just slit a throat and called it a day? I mean, that almost makes more sense to me as more plausible because of the time frame.
Also because of the time frame, and this is going to sound jokey, but it's kind of serious. I wonder, not serious as like a theory, but I wonder how many people like threw in the Jekyll and Hyde scenario?
That's a good question.
Just for the time period, the situation. I wonder. I bet you it happened. I bet you some detective came in like thinking he was hot shit and like slammed the book down on the table and was like, "We've got a new lead." All the cops back then talked like Jason Statham. You just had a bunch of Jason Stathams in one room. Just like every time they said something bad, there was a ear splitting. This never would have happened if Walker Texas Ranger was there.
That's true. Oh, Walker would handle it.
Walker and Trevette, even though I don't know how well Trevette would have gotten along calling shots in this time period.
Probably not well.
Probably would not have been taken very well. They would have been like, "Oi, why's the black one telling me what to do?"
Other suspect, naturally we said doctors. They assumed he was a doctor or a butcher or a hairdresser because they had skills with sharp objects.
Someone's giving this one a hat.
Some even thought maybe it was an artist. And some even thought it could have been a member of the royal family.
So, like, literally, they're just like, it could be anyone.
It could be anybody.
It could be royal family. It could be a tourist. It could be an artist. Could have been some dogs. It might have been my cousin.
Now we're not
sure.
We're going to get into the royal or the British, the monarchy here in just a minute.
It was probably fucking the Nosferatu motherfucker that's in charge now. I bet you he was still alive back then. You've seen that motherfucker?
No.
Prince George or whatever the fuck, whoever's in charge now that she's dead.
Oh.
The one that looks like Joe Biden fucked a vampire?
I mean, Charles, her son?
Is that his name?
Yeah. I don't know what.
That's her son? Why does he look older than her? The fuck? That dude.
Because he is old. She was 125. He's like 70 something. She was almost 100, I think.
He looks 200. He looks like he goes to sleep in a coffin every night.
Maybe he does.
He looks like Montgomery Burns.
Don't worry. He's probably not going to be around long.
He's probably not around now. He's a fucking telegram or hologram. That motherfucker died in 76 at the age of 252.
Now, the royal family conspiracy is very interesting. Prince Albert Victor allegedly fathered a child with Annie Crook, who was a woman of poor station, possibly a sex worker.
Hey, that's nothing compared to what Harry did.
The theory...
Harry married a black.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I still, all jokes aside, I honestly thought that the royal family was going to try to kill Meghan Markle.
They probably are still, because she's kind of a douche rocket.
Not even that, like literally just because she's black. Like, I know people be like, "Oh, the royal family's not racist." Like, I don't even know if you can bring racism into it. I just think the purity of the bloodline is so fucking important to some of those families that it's ridiculous.
Well, that's why you get people that look like Charles that's so pure.
We can't have a mulatto princess.
Haven't you ever seen what's the one Disney princess that's like light skinned black?
Jasmine from...
No.
From
like the Princess and the Frog or some shit like that.
I fucking don't know.
Look at that. That's how racist it is. We don't know who it is because they're keeping her behind closed doors.
No, I just don't.
She's the
my children are in their 20s.
That movie was out back then.
I know. So it's been a few years since I've had to deal with Disney princesses.
I think it was Princess and the Frog. When's the last time you heard about the live action Little Mermaid?
The only thing I remember from my daughter's princess days is Ariel from Little Mermaid.
Yeah,
the cartoon.
Who's fucking black now?
The cartoon.
Nobody gives a fuck. Everybody seemed to give a fuck. I don't know why.
The cartoon was big. We've covered this. A mermaid cannot be black, and it's not racist.
She swims.
No, there is no need for melanin in the skin. When
yeah, that's true.
She spends most of her time under fucking water. The sun doesn't get.
That's true. Unless they're a top layer of water species. There's no point.
Exactly. That's not has nothing to do with race people. Not it's like science. You saying about the swimming thing.
I remember when that shit came out. It was like, "Did you hear they're making the Little Mermaid black?" I don't give a fuck if she's black. Can she sing the songs well? That's all that fucking matters.
But the only thing I remember from
does she want to be part of my world?
The only thing I remember from those days when my daughters were that age of watching that shit is the original, the movie. The cartoon movie of Little Mermaid. Ariel was visually they based her off Alyssa Milano. And all the dicks in the picture.
In all of the Disney movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody made a big hubbub about the Black Little Mermaid. I'm like, who gives a shit if she's black? All I need to know is, like I said, does she want to be part of our world? Does she have gadgets and gizmos and who's aplenty and who's its and what's its galore? Does she have 20 thingamabobs? From the song, I've got gadgets and gizmos aplenty. I know all the words. I grew up on that shit.
I'm just saying, I don't think there'd be any need for melanin in a mermaid. I think a mermaid actually would more likely be albino.
See, now the only time I'll throw a fit is if they make like black Cinderella. Strictly because I'll be like, hold on, white made a lot more sense with the whole stepmom stepsisters thing. You hear a lot more about bitchy white stepmoms than any other race. That one just made sense. That one reads.
Okay. Anyway, getting back to the royal family, Prince Albert Victor fathered a child with Annie Crook, supposedly, allegedly.
Yeah, there was no fucking 23andMe.
And these murders were done to basically get rid of the witnesses or the people who knew about this illegitimate child.
That Little Mermaid thing might have been the most racist thing I've ever said.
Probably. I'm just going to skate on past it. At least I had science back behind my.
Oh.
But the victims were probably, according to this theory, were committed to silence people that knew about. So the royal family was concerned about claims to the throne. Sir William Gull, who was a high rank, he wasn't a member, but he was somebody who worked in for the royal family.
He was knighted, so he's important.
Implicated in the cover-up. Now,
that reads. If you want to go down that road, there's always going to be that one fucking like that honored or knighted. What's the word that I would say, like right hand man to do all the cover up shit.
Now, I'll be honest, this conspiracy theory tracks for me a little bit.
I bet it does. The royal family one?
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were talking about the next one.
This makes sense to me. Especially in 1888, hell, 1997, the royal family, might have committed a murder.
They fucking did it. I'm sorry. They fucking
did we cover that? Did we do an episode
Princess Di? Yeah.
We did, didn't we?
I think so. I think I did it.
Yeah, I think you did it. But anyway, so this is not out of the realm of possibility in my mind. I'm not saying they did it. I can see how in 1888 this would be a problem. This would be handled in such a way.
Well, royalty, it's not a new thing for royalty to have blood on their hands either.
No.
I believe Vlad the Impaler was some type of
ruler in Transylvania.
Yeah.
Whatever it was called back then.
The East.
So most rulers go to war, which is a lot of blood. But
that's okay.
That's okay.
We don't mind that. As long as we're beating somebody. And we're just over here, we're like, man,
murder's fine.
All I'm saying is Jack the Ripper was crazy, but let's not act like there's not something more important that we need to remember in the month of September. Never forget.
Now, the next one we'll talk about is the Freemason theory.
Yep, this is the one. Now, this is the truth. This is the truth.
This also tracks a little bit with the royal family as well.
Yeah, because isn't like every man in the royal family basically been associated with the Freemasons?
Correct. The Grand Lodge, here's the way it works. Every country has a Grand Lodge. Every state, like in the United States, every state has a Grand Lodge. And for you to have your charter, essentially, your charter comes from Great Britain. The lodge, the official lodge in Great Britain. And all the royal family are members.
The Grand Lodge.
To be recognized as a Freemason lodge in most countries, and you have to be have your charter approved by the Grand Lodge of England.
That's like Sons of Anarchy.
Right.
Is the Grand Lodge where the Grand Wizard is?
They're not called
The
Grand
Grand
Wizard.
Dragon.
That's wrong group. So there,
I'm sure there's some crossover somewhere in the world.
I mean, and so Masonry is thick, is deep in British culture. I mean, it's especially in the royal family. Like, they're all members.
Is that the first line when you become a Mason? Gentlemen, Freemasonry is thick and deep.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Now, Sir William Gall and several of the police officials were Freemasons, which, let's be honest, back then, it's in 1888, most men were. It's not.
You can't be a man unless you're a Freemason.
Just like in 1888 in the United States, Freemasonry was very big.
Yeah. You didn't have shit else to do.
Right.
Like, why are you a Freemason? Well, what the fuck else am I going to do Thursday nights? Stare at the wall?
Now, some of the mutilation, people have stated because the way the bodies were mutilated, throat cut, disemboweled, mirrors Masonic rituals. Now, I will say this. They are not wrong. But everything Masonic-wise is... what's the word I'm looking for? They are mentioned, but not to be done. You know.
Symbolic.
Yes, symbolic. They're symbolic in nature.
They're insinuated.
Let's just say if you got a transcript of a Masonic ritual, one of the rituals, or one of the three original, main rituals, and you just read the transcript, you would say, "Yep, Jack the Ripper was it was the Freemasons."
Kind of like reading the Old Testament.
Right. It's not a good read. It's hard, but it's all symbolic. As you know, you gotta remember when all that stuff was written too.
Yeah, back when it was normal to cut people in half.
They're
like, "Why'd you kill Jim?" He's talking shit.
Yeah. So I can see how people, and especially, I believe there was a case, maybe in Great Britain or maybe it was in Italy, I can't remember, where there was a case of a Masonic lodge went rogue. And they fucking got carried away. And I believe there were some murders. I'm not quite.
We don't talk about that.
Like I said, I'm no longer a Freemason.
You think you'd touch on that a little bit? Be like, now let's clear the air here. Some of you may have heard some things,
and I don't believe, and I firmly believe that scenario was not the Freemason. It was somebody who happened to did some stupid shit.
the actual murders or
No, not this. I think it might have been in Italy.
Italy.
There was a lodge that kind of took it a little far. So, and that's where a lot of the...
I can't believe the Vatican allowed such a thing.
Yeah. So, but I can see how people would say that, and there's such a fear, not so much, I guess, a fear of the Freemasons. I mean,
A misunderstanding.
right. Like I said, if it was half as interesting as some of these conspiracy theories, I would still be a Freemason. I want to do coke off a hooker's ass. I've yet to see that.
And again, that probably is happening, and there probably are Freemasons going through with that, but that doesn't mean that they're
right. There's
part of the cabal, or if they are part of the cabal underworld, then it's just kind of a crossover.
I've always there is bad people in good organizations.
Yeah, it's not like...
And one bad apple spoils a whole bunch.
Yeah, it's not like somebody somewhere is a Freemason with their little fucking ring on, and they're going to be like, it's time. And then, like, all the Freemasons in the world are going to
activate.
Are going to fucking go robot and start just killing
now,
people.
Could there be an asshole in the bunch? Yes. And that does cast a bad light. So I get that. Why do you think, I mean, this is probably one of the most popular it's lasted over so long. Why do you think Jack the Ripper has sparked the imagination of so many true crime enthusiasts over the years?
Mm-hmm. What?
Oh, you were busy.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think that? Why do you think this is such an enduring story? Or why is it remembered and I don't want to say revered, but it's burned into our psyche so.
Because it was around the time the tabloids were legitimately taking hold of the realm of news.
And the heinous portion of it, the fact that they were never caught, but like we said, probably were never going to be caught because it could have been more than one person, which I'm down with that theory.
Yeah, probably. Even if there wasn't more than one person physically doing it, there was more than one person involved in the cover-up.
There was probably...
Or the setup or something.
There were, and I forgot to mention with the Freemason, there was apparently rumors of one of the police chief or whatever actually scrubbing away some symbols on the wall, which the conspiracy theorists say that he was getting rid of Masonic. Somebody left Masonic fucking drawings on the.
That shit could have just been there.
Or it could have been blood and he was just wiping it up. It could be a number of things. I think the story has gotten a little...
Blood splatters in different ways.
Yeah.
Just because it makes what appears to possibly be a shape doesn't make it so.
I mean, I think a lot has to do with not being caught. It's the murders are so well known and nobody was held accountable. We don't know who did it. We never will know who. Time is 40 some odd years have passed. 88. So, yeah, 140.
Almost 140 years.
137 years or whatever. Or 33. Oh, fuck. Math is hard.
136 to 137. Or 137 to 138. Something like that.
Something like that.
A big fucking number, but not that big.
So, no, a person and a half ago.
Yeah.
But it's
when the prince's son was in his midlife crisis, this happened.
But yes, it happened in the past, but not.
That's not that long ago.
It's not that long ago. So
it's just like I mean, even like the revolution, like when you like it's not that long ago. Like in the scope of time.
When I was born, this was 90 years ago.
Yeah.
80 some odd years ago. When my grandparents was born, this was like 25 years?
Is that firecrackers?
I think so.
Goddamn kids.
But when my grandparents were born, World War, when the Titanic sunk, this was 17...
What, the Titanic?
29 years between Jack the Ripper and the Titanic. 88 to 17. So
Titanic was 12, wasn't it?
I thought it was 1917.
I feel like the Titanic was 12.
Well, still, fucking not that long ago.
We're splitting hairs here.
Fucking 22 plus, so 30, 30 years apart. Somebody was alive, remembers both. So what I'm saying is
somebody has a lot of shit going on.
It being so it's not that it seems like 140 years ago.
It's not that long.
Not that long. I've been alive for 50 some odd years.
We still talk about H.H. Holmes and we figured that shit out.
Yeah. And the fact that, like I said, we don't know who it is. They were horrifying murders in such a quick span, just a few months. And that has been covered. This is what sparked Sherlock Holmes, I believe. These murders is what sparked whatever Sir Arthur
Conan Doyle.
Yeah, Conan Doyle. Yeah, what inspired him to write Sherlock Holmes, which is a fantastic character.
Some of fucking old what's his name's best work? Fucking Iron Man.
Robert Downey Jr. I never really liked those.
And who's his Watson? Jude Law.
Jude Law, yes.
I'd fuck Jude Law.
Okay, good to know. Thanks for that fucking information.
Jude Law's okay with Black Little Mermaid.
I'm sure he is. What was Doctor Strange. He did was that a series?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
He played Sherlock Holmes. Was it in a series?
Was he in Doctor Who?
No. Unless he was in one of the later.
Oh, no, I'm not a Doctor Who.
No, he was in Sherlock. He played Sherlock Holmes in, I think, a BBC series.
He was also the voice of Smaug in The Hobbit.
I will say, did you ever watch, what was it, with, what's his name? Was it Johnny Lee Miller? Played Sherlock Holmes.
I don't know.
But a modern twist to it. He was, this time.
Oh, it was a TV show.
Yeah,
Wasn't
it was a TV show. What was it?
Well, there's a female too, isn't there?
Well, his Watson was a female.
The Asian lady?
I believe she's black. Yeah, no, you're right. Asian. Lucy Liu was Watson.
God, her eyes are close together.
Okay, you're Chinese or Japanese. You can say that.
Well, she's Chinese, I think.
What was the name of that? Oh, fuck.
Dirty Knees.
What was
Look
the
at
name of
these.
that show? It was actually a pretty good show, and I kind of.
It was probably like Holmes or some
it
shit.
was Elementary.
Stupid.
From Elementary, my dear Watson. It was see, and I'm
Somebody at some TV station was like, "I'm making it big with this name."
And I'm big on different takes of old stories, just like we talked about. I think that was a great modern take on Sherlock Holmes. And just like we talked about why I don't despise the Twilight series, because it's an interesting take on vampires. Or
I've said my piece. I can't.
like World War
Why are
Z.
they sparkly?
Was it World War Z? World War with Brad Pitt. What was it?
Yeah.
That is an interesting take on zombies. Not your typical, they're fast.
Yeah, they're like 28 Days Later zombies.
Yeah.
Even though those aren't really zombies, they're just filled with rage.
I like modern, when they update old stuff with a modern twist and make you look at it a different way.
That's the one I'm waiting for. 28 Years Later is coming out.
I saw the
I haven't watched an official trailer for it yet.
I think I saw an official.
But I like 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later. They were good flicks.
Right. But I enjoy when they update something or give it a different take. It causes you to look at something a little bit different. And I think Elementary was a different take on Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, it had an Asian. They wouldn't have allowed.
But at least she was a doctor.
Scotland Yard wouldn't have allowed that.
At least she was a doctor. And I believe in the show, Sherlock had a fucking heroin problem.
That reads.
He was a heroin addict in recovery.
Chinese assistant does help with that.
And a doctor. But, I enjoy that. I like that when they do a modern, updated version, and it makes you look at it a different way.
So she just represents ye old opium den.
Yes.
They're being racist without being racist.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, they're like, look over here, while on the other hand, racism. Like how they fucking CGI'd all the dwarves in Snow White.
And I like Johnny Lee Miller. I think he's...
I don't even know who the fuck that is. I'd probably know who it is.
I think he was married to Angelina Jolie. Like
That doesn't help. Who wasn't?
The first. He was her first husband. I
Who
think.
wasn't? If I saw him, I'd probably know who he is.
Yeah.
The royal family did it.
I mean, that...
I've been convinced of that for a while. Or that they had... Like, I think it was just like... These were all just mistresses of some royal poon hound.
I mean, it's very possible that this dude knocked up a streetwalker, and these were people that knew about it. They got rid of them.
Yeah.
It makes sense. But
Too much sense.
I would here's what to argue with that. I would say, okay, you're a powerful family. You want to get rid of these people. These are...
You would do it cleaner.
Yeah, I wouldn't make a spectacle out of it. Excuse me, they just disappear. More of a abduction, hide the body, and move it along, folks.
But if you do it in a way that shows a modus operandi and a methodology of the killing, then it gives people a whodunit and a imaginary character to blame it on, instead of actually looking for the person responsible.
That is true. I mean, that's a good point.
Because they would never think that the royal family would do such a drastic, horrific thing.
They would probably think more like me. It would be much cleaner, much more covered up. They would just disappear.
It would be like they would have caressed them until they died.
They would have killed them in a tunnel
Yeah.
In
One of those
Mercedes.
death tunnels under Paris.
Yeah.
The catacombs.
Yeah, I mean, one of these days, maybe I'll get to London.
For what?
They speak English.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I just feel like...
Give me some fish and chips.
Right? And then leave. Like, oh...
But I'm not eating any spotted dick.
Like,
That's
oh,
for
look,
sure.
a Big Ben. Cool.
Suffolk.
Oh, look, the guards that don't move. Cool.
Isn't it dreary? It's like Seattle.
Yeah.
I need a little sunshine.
I mean, I'd go, but I don't know of any family lineage that goes back there, so I don't have that going for me. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I'm just like, I've seen documentaries, feel like I've seen it.
That's really all I got today.
It was the royal family.
Or the Freemasons.
Same thing.
Or both.
Same thing. Same. Different, but still same.
I'm trying to think of Freemason rituals to... That's close. Anyway. Who knows? It'll never be solved. The DNA evidence now we're just speculating. We'll never know. I don't think we'll even remotely know. We can have some theories. Because isn't there a theory? Didn't we might have covered it that one guy in Chicago, one serial killer in Chicago? Didn't you do an episode?
H.H. Holmes?
Yes, H.H. Holmes.
Yeah.
He was a suspect.
Mm-hmm.
People say because he was in London at the time.
Yeah.
And I saw, who knows?
It was H.H. Holmes and the royal family.
In cahoots.
It was the Illuminati.
I love that word, cahoots.
You rascally rabbits.
All right. You got any idea what you're going to do next week?
We'll see.
All right.
Probably something less true crimey. Been really true crime heavy lately.
I want to go back to, I was talking about when you were on your call. I got to find me a haunted
Ghostesses.
Something.
They're just so hard to find anything that like has any substance.
We had people seem to like our haunted state episodes. Maybe I'll pick another state and do haunted. What is it? Haunted Indiana was a very popular episode. Maybe we'll do haunted Michigan, or I'll pick another state.
Alabama.
That's just called,
Georgia's supposed to be haunted as fuck.
That's true, but if we do Alabama, be basically just a KKK.
Yeah, just be a bunch of those. Are the only ghosts you got to watch out for.
Those ghosts are just wearing white sheets.
Yeah, those. It's still haunted, if you know what I mean.
Maybe I'll look at
as is Arkansas.
Maybe a haunted Georgia, because you got Savannah, which is they say one of the most haunted cities, which I would love to go to.
Louisiana, we got all the hoodoo and the voodoo down there.
Maybe next year I'm gonna do a road trip to
Savannah and ride around on the trolley and be like, oh.
And do it. I think my mom and stepdad they went to Savannah, did a ghost tour.
What the fuck else are you going to do in Savannah, Georgia? Eat peaches?
I don't like peaches that well. I mean, I can eat them. I'm not a big peach guy.
Maybe they're different there. Maybe you're just like,
maybe they're good.
They're Georgia peaches. It's on their state sign. You get some boiled peanuts.
I just don't like the red clay. That's just weird to me.
It's all right.
You know what I like about Georgia?
Less blacks.
No,
that's not true anyway. There's a lot of black people in Georgia.
It's that last 10 feet when you go into Florida.
Oh, that shithole.
Oh, Florida's all right.
Florida's great for like a day and a half.
For 3 days, a long weekend.
Depending on where you go.
You gotta go on the Gulf side, though.
Yeah, I'm cool on like Miami and shit like that. Too expensive.
No, fuck Miami.
There you go. There's the overall there's the take home from this show. Fuck Miami.
Fuck Orlando.
Orlando. When I went to that cruise, sailed out of Orlando. Stayed in Orlando.
Yeah, probably.
So much bigger than I remember when I went there as a kid to go to Disney and shit.
I've been to Orlando.
It is crazy.
I have not been to Orlando since like 1992.
Dude, it was nuts. There's fucking lights and buildings and people and cars and traffic. Like, it was fucking crazy. Like, it was like that back in the day, but like, fuck, I do not remember it being that crazy.
The last time I was in Florida, see, I know I went in 2008 on vacation with the ex-wife and kids. I want to say in 2010 or 2011, I went for like 3 days to go drop a car off.
Go take a shit in a gas station and drive back.
No, a buddy of mine's got his mom lives down there, and we dropped he bought an old car. I want to say it was 2009, because I think I was still married at the time, so it was before 2010.
Oh, so you got into an argument about it?
No,
I'm going.
it was around 2009, or I might have been getting a divorce at the time.
I'm going. This house is a fucking prison.
You're fucking driving me crazy. Anyway, so I don't know. We don't know what we're doing next week. The week after that, we might.
It's a surprise.
We're going to try to get back to the paranormal or haunted, more hauntings.
Sometime soon.
I'm going to work on that. I got 2 weeks to come up with that episode. And then I'm going to do. I got a good conspiracy episode that I was working on.
A real taint tickler.
Another. It has to do with the government fucking us in the anus.
As they do.
But I think that's going to wrap it up. We appreciate everybody that was in watching us on the live stream, saying hi in the chat. We will see you next week, same time, same place, maybe. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and on the YouTube channel, follow us on your favorite podcast app. Be sure to like, subscribe, rate, and review, and all that happy horse shit. And we will see you next week. Say bye, Travis.
Bye.